Hello and good day. My name is Ricky from Cosmic Renegade, a turn-based space western strategy game that is inspired by D&D mechanics, and I'm making for fun. In this progress log, I'm going to take you through something that I've been working on for quite a little bit, the enemy AI for turn-based combat in my game. Specifically, I'm going to take you through the approach that I took, which I learned from another YouTuber called Lawless Games. I'm going to put a link to his channel in the description if you guys want to check him out. But a lot of the enemy AI right now was inspired by how he did it in his game. Let's start with a demo first. So, I'm going to pilot my ship. I'm just going to go this way, and I'm just going to end my turn. Now, we see that the enemy ship is thinking about what to do. He's going to choose to go towards me, the player. He is not within range, so he's just going to end his turn right there. The little number that you see at the bottom is the score that it evaluated for its position, the action that it was going to do, which I will explain later. So for right now, I get to move. I'm going to see. I don't think I'm within range at all. So I'm going to move this way. Yeah, I'm going to end my turn right there. So he has a much bigger movement profile than I do. He's going to choose to go here, target me, and see that the score is much higher. That's because he's going to potentially deal some damage. He missed though, and now it's my turn. Am I within range? Yes, so I'm just going to fire. I hit him. Amazing. And we're just going to end. Actually, I'm going to run. I'm running away. Let's see if he pursues. He pursues just to within range. Targets me. See that I'm right in the edge of his range, and he does hit me. Alright, I'm not going to take that, though. I'm going to go here. I'm going to use my turrets, and I'm going to fire. Miss, though. Man, what is with the misses? So, I bet you're wondering, how the heck does that work? Ricky, that looked like magic. It is magic. I'm just kidding. I'm going to bust out the old MS Paint here to show you the basics of how I got this to work. So, the very first thing is that in order to figure out what the best action for an enemy ship to be able to do, it has to know, well, all of its possible actions. So, if we have a grid, and let's say that our enemy ship is here, and let's say that our player ship is right here, the first thing that we are going to do is that we're going to evaluate all of the tiles that the enemy ship could move to. So for example, let's say that it can move to these tiles. Let's say that the first one it evaluates is the one right in front of it. It's going to loop through every single weapon system that it has to check the range, to check the potential damage. And in my calculations, I use average damage, which I'll get to in a second. But we check the range to see if it can see any targets within range. So first thing it'll do is that it'll check the range for every single one of its weapon systems to see if it can hit any targets if it moves there. As you can see, I've illustrated this beautifully in gray. No targets. So it's going to start evaluating the other tiles, right? To see if anybody is within range. Eventually, it'll figure out that if it pathfinds to here, it'll find that the player is within range. Eventually, after evaluating all of the possible movement tiles, it'll find that it can reach the player if it moves to this square right here. Like I said, it's looping through every single one of its weapons that the ship carries. For us right now, the enemy ships only have one weapon. It's their front laser cannons. So now that they've found a square that it can move to, where it can actually target a player or any allied ship, it'll evaluate that as the best square to move to and the best action to perform. But you might be wondering, even if it is able to go to a particular square, how does it choose which weapon to use? How does it know if there are multiple targets in range, which target should I target? And what if there are no targets? What if in every single movement tile that I could possibly move to, what if there's nobody there that I can hit? The short answer is this formula: distance plus damage. and I'll show you what I mean. Which weapon you should use should deal the most damage under most circumstances, right? That's the naive way of doing it. Lawless Games actually goes through a scenario where, despite dealing the most damage to one character at full health, it's better to go for a character at low health, even if you deal less damage, if it leads to a kill. I have yet to program that in, but so far hasn't been an issue. But what about distance? If there are multiple targets in range, which one do we hit? Well, we want to go for the one that will give us the most cushion of distance, meaning we want to stay as far away from the enemy ship versus our weapon range, right? Why get closer to the enemy position if you are going to be just subject to an attack next turn? So the default AI that I'm writing is, stay the heck away from everybody. However, there will be ships in the future that use ramming and boarding strategies as part of their programming. So that's distance. So we want to stay far away if there are multiple targets. But what if there are no targets in every single tile that we could possibly move to? What if every single one of our weapons and abilities can't hit anyone? Well, now we actually do want to go closer. We want to move as close and as near as we can to the closest target to us on the map. So, I'm going to take you through some code to show you exactly how this works. Alright, this is the primary class that I'm using to evaluate each tile that the enemy ship could go to, in addition to what weapons it could use and which abilities it should use and which targets it should target. One of the greatest suggestions from Lawless Games was to put it in a single class like this. I might actually move the calculations outside of this particular class. I'm just going to maybe use this as a struct to hold everything. Because really, each enemy ship, depending on the ship type, will have a different behavior. For example, boarding ships, I mentioned, they want to get as closest to you as possible. So I might use different calculations for different scores and not have it stay within this class. Here are the main calculation functions that I'm using. I'm going to scroll up just a little bit so that you can see that if there is indeed a target in range, then we calculate a score based on what its engagement distance is. Remember, the engagement distance is one that we're trying to maximize. We want to stay the heck away from everybody. And added by whatever our true damage score is, which I'll explain further in the calculation functions. However, if there are no targets in range, I'm going to use the no target in range calculation score. So I'm going to show you guys what each of those functions calculates. Let's start with calculating the score for if we see that in every single one of our movement tiles, we can't hit anybody with any of our weapons, any of our abilities. In that case, remember, we want to get as close as we can to the nearest possible target. So what this code really does is, first, it calculates how far we are from, how far our target is from our start position, and how far our target is from our end position. Let's take this as an example. Let's say that your enemy AI has a start position on the bottom left, and there's a player on the top right, but it can't move within range to attack it with anything. Let's say that the range is like super short. That's like the movement range, and let's say that this is like the attack range, right? Super duper short. For us, we might, for a human brain, that might look something like this, where it moves over yonder. So recall that our formula was the start position distance from the player versus divided by the end position distance over the player. So we can all see that the start position from the top, from here to there, is much bigger than from here to there. In order to maximize that number, the enemy ship has to go closer to the player position, since start minus P is constant. So that's the first score calculation function. If we don't have anybody within range, we want to get as close as we can. So we just covered how to calculate the score for having no targets within range, what about the engagement distance? What if we want to stay as far away as we can from the target? Well, that is super duper simple compared to the other one. All we need to do is calculate the distance between the end position of your ship versus that of your target. If you're super far away from the target, then this score is going to be really high. If you're super near to the target, then this score is going to be really low. But remember that I said that if we are within range of any targets, then the score is a function of both the engagement distance and the true damage score. So now I'm going to take you through some of the code that I have written here for how to calculate true damage score. To calculate what I'm calling the true damage score, you need to have the average weapon damage multiplied by the chance to hit. Average weapon damage is really just dividing the dice of the weapon by 2 and then adding 0.5 to it to make sure that you don't have a 0 in there. Calculating chance to hit is based on your 2-hit bonus and your opponent's armor class. So I just calculated the odds of being able to hit. So once you have both of those, average weapon damage times the chance to hit, your true damage, I multiplied by 1,000 to make sure, to kind of artificially make sure that enemy actions in the enemy AI that result in dealing damage are a lot more than actions that don't. So, to give you a better grasp of what I'm talking about, I'm back in the Unity editor. I'm going to move my ship in just a random direction. I'm going to end my turn, and you can see that the enemy ship is deciding it's going to choose to move as close as it can to me because it doesn't evaluate anybody. And you can see again that the score pop out is very, very small. It's about 18, right? If I move closer, I don't think I can hit it from here, but that's okay. I'm just going to end my turn. He should be able to move within range, and we're going to watch what the score is when it tries to target me. You can see that the score is 3,800, meaning that its true damage was about, I can't math, 3.8. And you can actually see on the very bottom, that 5 that popped up, that was the damage that was dealt. So, the 3 things that you can expect for me to try to make progress on in the near future. The holidays are coming up, so I might be a little bit busy. I'm going to try to improve the game balance. Right now, shields are kind of OP. Each of these ships can just kind of hammer away at each other without making any real progress towards depleting their health bar, and that's not great. I also want to add more weapons, maybe different ship types. Definitely going to clean up this UI, so it might look a little bit different in the next video, who knows. But also I need to think about some other game design choices. So for example, one of the complaints about turn-based strategy games is that they're, well, slow. A lot of time is spent kind of doing nothing, especially on the enemy's turn. One of the things that I want to implement is, even if it's the enemy's turn, I want there to be something like a quick time event, where if they fire at you, if you time it right, by hitting the space bar as the pilot, you can try to dodge some of the incoming fire and reduce the damage. Same thing with the enemy ship. Same thing if you're targeting an enemy ship as a gunner, you should be able to hit a quick time event to do extra bonus damage if you time it just right. Just a little bit of an incentive to make the game more skill-based, even though it's a turn-based combat thing. But yeah, those are my thoughts. See you all in the next video.